It's like if you were to take an old computer and put in a super fast operating system, it can't handle it. My body had experienced a lot of trauma. My mum passed away when I was young, and I had a very traumatic childhood. If you think about the quality and the vibration of my physical body, it couldn't handle the new consciousness. So it had to dissolve and disintegrate to rebuild itself energetically and physically.
Hey, Guy here. Welcome. My beautiful guest today is Katherine Jameson, and she ended up on the podcast. She's a partner. She's the partner of Will Sudoka, who I had on the show at least 18 months ago, which I highly recommend checking out as well. But anyway, on to today. It always fascinates me where these conversations go. And when you step onto this path and the deeper you go on your own personal journey of exploration, it's amazing. The rabbit hole continues to get deeper and deeper. And we certainly went there today. We ended up talking about galactic consciousness, her personal transformation through esoteric practices and her awakening, which was absolutely fascinating. We also got onto the collective of awakening and what's happening right now, the impact of COVID-19 had on that as well. The sound healing and the integration of sound healing and how that can support you on your journey, which I love that topic because obviously we use sound at our retreats as well. And we even got into higher dimensional beings and channeling and what is coming through right now as of recording this. So it's a fascinating conversation. Please ensure if you are watching this on YouTube, let me know in the comments below what you think about even where you are in the world. Tell me, let's connect. It's really beautiful connecting with everyone. And also what else is happening in our world? Our Bali retreat is almost sold out. We've got a couple of spots left, which is the end of June 28th. We start in Ubud, Bali. So if you want to join me, Matt and Petra for 6 full days, hurry because it will sell out. I'm about to embark on our May retreat 2024 here in northern New South Wales, Australia. Next week, I can't wait. Mastering the Inner Mystic, that has sold out. Sold out a while ago. So there's clearly a hunger for this work, and hopefully I get to meet you one day in person soon. Much love from me. Enjoy this podcast with Katherine. It's awesome. Beautiful. Katie, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Guy.
It's certainly an honor. Obviously I know your partner Will very well, and to have you come on today. I'm one thing that's taken me by surprise is I didn't really know your story or your background, and when starting to read up about it, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we're only finding out this now, Yeah. And, as things go by. So let's just start very simply. If, a stranger asks you what you did for a living, what would you say?
I would say that I do maybe 4 main things. I'm a multidimensional energy channel. So my first love is channeling high frequency information and energy through sound and my voice, creating a bridge between, I guess, higher planes of existence, and then recording that in encodings that people can listen to through headphones or through my company VibroSound, VibroAcoustic Sound Technology, where they can embed that into the cells of their body and their nervous system. And then I would say also I'm a teacher. So I love to teach all about, I guess, galactic consciousness, opening yourself up to your multidimensional gifts, and vibrational medicine is my main calling.
Yeah, incredible. A lot of that in there, they all sound esoteric words. And I think, certainly as I've been exploring my own journey, my own path, and things have opened up to me, it's really blown me away what's possible. But I had to kind of work through belief systems and what I thought reality is and was, to realizing I actually know nothing and there's so much potential. It's not funny, and I think sometimes there's a bit of a bridge into some of those things you've just spoken about and shared.
There's a huge bridge.
Yeah. How are you finding that bridge at the moment with people when they are people just coming out of everywhere to see you and you think, oh shit, everyone's as into this kind of stuff as me, or do people resist?
I think that there's 2 strains. I think definitely having done this work seriously for maybe the last 6 or 7 years. The bifurcation of time, the speeding up of the collective awakening, I think since COVID has really been amazing to watch people be like, oh, my auntie had a sound healing, or my blah blah listens to channelings. Like, I think that where people were at with their resistance versus their acceptance to out of the box content, it's really shifted a lot. So people who I didn't think would be open to material or more esoteric information, they're really hungry for it. So I think it's really fun. And also I think that the people that book in with me, I've always felt like I'm like a teacher or a healer to the healers. So most people that have naturally innately found me that resonate with what I have to bring are already people who are kind of awake to the fact that they are a healer or they are a teacher in that capacity. So I really rarely get, I think when I first started Reiki, like a long time ago, I think I had 2 clients that I was ever like, this is really hard work. I have to talk to you in a different language. I have to meet people where they're at. But I think that the people that find me are ready for like the more advanced stuff. So I don't have to convince people of things anymore. But it's fun. It's fun to watch people awaken and be like, oh, did you know that, like, da 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 da? And I think I get to be a safe space to be like, yes, well, like, and people need that confirmation. Otherwise you do feel a bit lonely and you do feel a bit crazy. And the bridge, as you said, to the deconstruction of the old operating system to the, like, the mechanical operations of the new consciousness, you know?
Totally. Like, I'm in a fortunate position now. I mean, it's something that I've created myself over a long time and hard work. So it's not like I just landed here and just doing it.
Doesn't work like that.
No, far from it. Where I'm in a space almost weekly that you really start to feel that energy, that frequency, and start to work with different levels of reality, or however you want to frame or term it. And even then, the human side of me still goes, what? Like, how is this possible? But then he's doing it. So I can only just imagine if you don't even have those experiences, but there's an exploration there, you know, it can be an interesting journey into that.
I always say for my people, like, it's like a, what's that thing when you tick one of the little balls and it goes tick, 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 and then they all
so there's
start
like 6
swinging.
balls in it. Yeah.
I always feel like there's this back and forth when you break down your, through your awakening, where it's like, wow, I'm super elated and I'm aware in my multidimensionality. And then you go right to the other side and you're like, none of this is real. I'm absolutely crazy. And then I feel like there's like a 3 or 4 year process where you finally reach equilibrium and you can be grounded in it. Otherwise it's too much to handle.
Totally. So what about you? Have you always lent into this work? What's your journey?
No, I grew up very normal. Like, I grew up in I would say that I wasn't really aware. I would say that my journey is kind of interesting in terms of I did have kind of a rapid awakening. I did have an experience. I had a few experiences leading up to it, but basically my life was super normal up until like 2021. I went traveling and I spent 5 years kind of traveling and exploring myself. And I did have like a very, I guess, galactic awakening. If you want me to go into that a little, I basically was reading one night when I was living in Colombia and I was journaling, or I think I was journaling. And now I look back, I'm like, that was definitely me just channeling things that I couldn't name as channeling. And then all of these light codes, like symbols, started flying into my third eye. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, I'm not on drugs. Like, I had to check myself. And basically just like for 5 minutes, time kind of disintegrated.
So the visuals were just clear as day.
It was so intense. It literally looked like the matrix symbols, which I now know is kind of like light codes. If anyone's ever seen light language or light coding, it's just universal language written in different texts. So it took 5 minutes and that kind of all sunk into my body. And I like went to bed and I was like, oh, and I woke up the next day and I fell down the stairs and my body like didn't work. And I got quote unquote dengue fever. And my whole body was super, super sick. So I had to fly home, and my organs started failing, and I almost died. I was
From Colombia.
Yeah, from that experience, like that week, I was really, really unwell, and the hospital there couldn't really facilitate me. I remember I was lying in a terrible room, and a man came in with a fork in his eye, and they had to take me off the drip to like help him, and then like put me back on the drip, and like it was just intense. So I came home to Australia, and for about 18 months, what had been downloaded into my physical body, that superconscious perspective and past life material and aspects of me as different roles, and an awareness, I had to unpack for 18 months. So I didn't really work. My body was really sick. I had to heal.
Wow.
I cleared a lot of my trauma from this life and past life things. And I just knew stuff that I didn't know how I knew. So from then on, my like interest in energy and past lives and the Akashic records and everything to do with that kind of became a thread for my focus, because I had to figure out what the F was happening. So yeah.
Question for you. Well,
yeah.
just to get, so I can get clear in my mind.
Clear. Yeah.
Did you get sick after the download? Like from
Yes.
the moment after the download?
I believe
so the download
that
you believe it instigated it, like a purge.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, 100%. It's like if you were to take an old computer and put in a super fast operating system, it can't handle it. The light frequencies, my body had experienced a lot of trauma. My mum passed away when I was young, and I had a very traumatic childhood, in that sense. So if you think about the quality and the vibration of my physical body, it couldn't handle the new consciousness. So it had to like dissolve and disintegrate to rebuild itself energetically and physically.
Yeah. I'm always fascinated by that as well, because I've had similar experience, not to the extent where I've been sick for a long time, but leaning into this work, there's been moments where I feel like there's been this purge with a reset, if you like the breakdown to breakthrough and then a realignment. And I'm always fascinated by the biology as well, because I've never really been able to wrap my head around it, but I've kind of lent into some books. Dawson Church speaks about this as well, about how each cell actually communicates through telomeres, and telomeres are like the internet highway of light. So actually traditional models of Newtonian physics speaks of, there's a cause and effect, so that it has to travel from A to B to get to the signal. And yet we're only now starting to discover that light is a way of passing information, but beyond space and time, which is mind blowing. So it's instantaneous.
Yeah.
And when I start leaning into those kind of things, it kind of helps my human ways to at least then look at, well, is that starting to upgrade the hardware, being able to start to run that software at a better state, and the things that the body's holding or not serving you has to dissipate somehow.
It's so amazing that you just described that. I did a session for a client actually yesterday. So in my sessions, I do kind of like psychic surgery where I can read inside the physical body and find blockages and physical and energetic blocks. And they showed me the belief systems of her family, the belief systems of her culture and society had been ingrained. And they showed me the molecular and cellular structure of the cells. And there was these little threads. And as I channeled the light in through her energy body, by a distance, the threads started to unwind like DNA helix, and then they started to unplug from each other, and all of the old information disintegrated, and the new light upgraded the pathways between the cells. So it's like quantumly upgrading her to a higher blueprint, her higher intellect. So it's exactly like you just said. That's exactly how upgrading works through light.
Wow.
Light is information. Yeah.
So I want to get into that, what you just explained as well, then, or what you're actually doing now, which is pretty amazing. So what happens? You get sick, you go home, you had these language and symbolizations coming through. Then if you're home at this point for a long time, is this where you're really exploring energy? What happened? What was that?
This is where I got really sick, and honestly, I was so alone. Like I look back now and I realize I was placed in pockets of isolation for a very good reason. At the time, I was just honestly having the worst time ever. I think there's no beautifying the awakening process. I'm going to be real. I was very depressed and I was very alone. And I think what saved me was not being with dengue fever. It feels like your bones are breaking. So I couldn't really move my body. So I was forced to lay down, and literally meditate. So all I could do, I lived in Byron at the time, and they had these little weed gummies that help with my pain. So I'd take a few and I'd just listen to frequencies and music. And I would just, I started with guided meditations, and then I just started to just close my eyes. And that's when I started to be able to breathe trauma out of my body. I started to be able to astral travel and bilocate and communicate with different people. And at the time, I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but I really honed in on my mind-body awareness, which was like absolutely shot from the first 21 years of my human girl, Katie Jane life. So it took me a long time after that, when I got a little better, then I was like, okay, let's go and heal even more, because I also had endometriosis. So I had chronic pain before dengue fever. Yeah, I had surgeries. They put me on a lot of different pain meds. So I had experienced like high degrees of pain.
Wow.
That I had to heal from as well, which I did heal from. I don't have endo anymore.
Amazing. Yeah. So when you were in that state and you said you were astral traveling, bilocating, is it happening because you got nowhere to go, nowhere to be, and you're just fully present and just going within and meditating?
Going within, yeah. Sorry,
there's a little bit of lag there, but then yeah. And what is your experience of astral travel? I'm curious as well. It's only because I've had many experiences like that.
I think the astral travel was more refined later when I started to be able to, I think when I started training in actual energy healing, I did my Reiki 1, 2, I did a holistic vibrational medicine course. I think the astral travel really turned up its game 3 or 4 years later from that, when I started to have more intense psychic dreams. So I would wake up there's one very vivid memory, and I woke up on a spaceship, and they had like put me down and they were doing all these things. And then I realized that I wasn't meant to be awake for that. And they knew that, and I knew that. And it was this weird thing of like, and when I came back into my body, I woke up that morning and I was like, oh shit, I'm really going to these places. So I think the astral realm became more real to me through, when you channel energy, you're entering a different state of consciousness. So I was consistently seeing clients, and I would be journeying with them through different dimensional landscapes. So the more vivid experiences I had when I channeled energy, or when I did hypnosis sessions for myself, QHHT, then I started to learn how to explore that realm in a more safe way. Because I think when I was doing it alone, I was a bit like, it's like you don't have the handbook. You know, it's like when you go and you study a class, you have the textbook written out for you. This term, we're going to be studying this. This is how you get this answer. This is how you do this thing. When I started to do it more consciously through these mediums, I was like, okay, if I want to astral travel, I need to put my energy body in a Merkaba. So I started doing that, and I could travel more consciously to landscapes that I actually wanted to visit. I could call in councils or beings that I actually wanted to connect with. I could remote view old parts of my lives that I could do. So it was less about me just going out there and seeing what happened, and more learning how to consciously wield that to work for me.
Wow.
And that's what I teach people now. That's what I'm passionate about, is like, you could see anything that's ever happened. You can go and watch. Anyone you want to speak to, this veil is getting so thin. You want to talk, like I've talked to Robin Williams, I've talked to Nikola Tesla. Like, you want to have a conversation with someone and you have a good intention, you'll be able to.
Yeah, that's so fascinating, isn't it? I'm always not torn, because many of the things you just shared resonate so much, especially in terms of after I had my awakening and there was so much energy moving through, I didn't have the manual what to do with it, and I would lay in bed at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Next thing I know, I'd be out of my body.
Yeah.
And just like
it's kind of
freaking out.
scary.
It's hellishly scary because it for me, it was actually then having to nurture and overcome the fear of death, which was innate within me, because that's what it comes to us all at some stage, right?
100%.
So then it's like, they were nice thoughts of maybe, I could leave my body and go and see the pyramids or something like that. But when you leave your body, it was like, holy shit, this is terrifying. Get me back in at first, and then slowly over time, having these wacky experiences is how do you start to manage that? And then I realized that there's lessons in here for me. And if I'm able to overcome these aspects of myself, more importantly, they start to show up in my daily life. Where are the fears? Where are the things I'm not leaning into? That my authentic self isn't expressing itself here on this plane, which I think is the most.
That's so true. Part. It lends into, while this conversation so far has been very esoteric, I want to say, like, on the human level, these experiences really help you to integrate your maturity. I've grown up so much, my self-confidence, my reliance on my own ability. You heal so much of the personality constructs that you've absorbed that aren't representative of your true self by it's physics. A stronger vibration will entrain a weaker vibration. If you're consistently entraining to the vibration of you at a higher state of consciousness and bringing that forth into your daily life, your human constructs is going to entrain and raise to the strength of that. You're learning how to, through titration, going into that expanded state of consciousness and learning how to embody that more. And when you act as a human, you have more compassion, you're less triggered, you have a larger response time. There's so many wonderful benefits to just being a human as well.
Wow. So when did the sound component come into it for you then? So you started having these experiences, you're overcoming your dengue fever or whatever it might be, the realignment
or whatever.
of yourself. Yeah. So let's say we fast forwarded 2-3 years down the line, you're getting out of that loneliness, that depression, that pain that you said you were sitting in.
Yeah.
Then what?
When did sound come in? We have to rewind. So sound came in when I was a child. So my mum really encouraged me to play the piano. And at the time when she was alive, I was like, why are you forcing me to practice? All I want to do is like I was a really sassy kid. And then when she passed, it was very much a way for me to honor what she enjoyed. And my dad fostered that in me. So I was actually quite innately good at the piano and clarinet and theory. So I studied music at university. And when I was in high school, I started using music as a way to I actually started composing music. And found that the music that I made, while it was like deathly sad and people would like cry while listening to it, it was a way for me to cathartically, energetically release trauma. And it also made an encapsulated sound essence that people could find and experience their own pain in, if that makes sense. So I think like the whole premise of my company, Encoded Frequencies, is that sound is a carrier and a medium for you to resonate to and express the parts of you that can't be brought out by words or things like that. So music kind of really gained momentum way back then. And it's so funny. When I went to Nimbin for the first time, I remember I was like 15 or 16, and a crazy lady on the street came up to me and she grabbed me. She's like, "You're going to do sound." And I was like, "Oh." And I was like, "Well, I study music." She's like, no, sound. And then she like did a weird cackle, and I swear she like faded into the wall. Like my memory as a teenager was like, that was so weird. And it stuck with me my whole life. And I think about that all the time. So I think the sound aspect also came in like way before. Like I know I've explored other aspects of iterations of my consciousness that has utilized sound in a healing way a long time ago. So I think from there, I then just moved to America and I studied sound therapy. So when I was 24, I moved to 25, I moved to San Francisco and studied at the Globe Institute of Sound Healing. And that's where I really learned about the science of sound. And that's like I love channeling energy, but that's my favorite because it's like, it's physics, it's quantum physics, it's musical theory, it's maths, it's all of the parts of my brain that I actually really love. So
Wow.
from there, that's how I started VibroSound. There was a VibroAcoustic lounge out the back, and I'd walk to school every day, and I'd be in so much pain because I had to walk for an hour with endometriosis that by the time I got there, I would lay on the sound lounge out the back, and the pain it dissolved from my body. So if anyone has pain, like low frequency sound is amazing for pain relief. I also then started having very psychic experiences. So there's something about sound that is very physical as a current, and then something very spiritual. So when I moved back to Australia, no one was using vibroacoustic therapy as a company. So that's how I started VibroSound. And yeah.
Wow. So did you do your sound therapy before or after the dengue fever?
After. So I'd say that I healed from that. I studied Reiki, I did emotional anatomy, I did some other trainings. And then maybe that year when I was starting to get more well, the next step just showed itself to me. So I knew it was time to go into it. Cause I was hungry. You're hungry for more when you're in that stage of awakening.
Yeah,
all you want to do is devour, don't you reckon? You just want to devour every piece of information that you can.
Yeah, definitely. So because I want to get into the sound a bit more as well, because obviously I work with Matt, who works with sound at our retreats and everything, and I've seen firsthand how powerful sound can be.
Yeah.
But what do you think our human potential is then? How much do you think we're laying? We're not putting out on the table that we can really elevate our consciousness to. And
sound is everything. So on a physical level, sound, what you're asking me is what I really think sound can do. I think sound can destroy junk DNA. I think sound can upgrade the harmonics of your DNA. Your physical body is always in training and building upon the information that's within your auric field. Your energetic field informs the physical body. So if you start to look through the realm of physicality and your humanness through a vibrational perspective, you'll understand that everything is a frequency. Every cell emits a frequency, and through the laws of physics, you can find the resonant frequency of a cancer cell. This has already been shown, and you can turn up the amplitude and you can explode that. I do believe that the vibroacoustic therapy is like a first gen med bed. There's going to be technology that just uses sound frequencies to increase cell metabolism, to literally explode cells that shouldn't be there, to upgrade the DNA, to shift your consciousness into super consciousness. And sound is a transportation tool. So I do believe that sound holographically, when embedded with conscious and intention, embeds memory within your field. So what does that mean? I made a track once and I had an experience meeting Isis, and I was traveling to the temples, and it was so profound, and I felt her energy, and I watched my energy body walk up into this temple. And when I came back, I was like, I'm going to record that experience that I just had in the sound. So as I made the music, I toned, I visualized, and then I made the track, Egyptian Alchemy. And I've had 3 or 4 clients say, and other people's clients say, that they had the exact same journey by listening to that music. They walked down the stairs, up the temple, met with this being. And then when I realized you can holographically within the sound file embed experiences, embed memories, embed people's fractals of their remembrance of their higher consciousness in the sound. So I truly believe that sound is so multifaceted that if you wanted to, just like the Matrix in that movie where you put in the chip and now he's really good at Kung Fu. If you wanted to heal from something and you wanted to access an aspect of you, along your soul's lineage, where you have embodied your ultra confidence or this, you could listen and harmonize to the frequency of that when embedded, and you could shift your consciousness like that. Does that make sense what I just said?
It does. You've triggered many questions in you, and I want to go. Remind me to go back to Isis and Egyptian alchemy in a minute, if that's okay.
Yeah.
But the other question then I asked you, like, because I kind of look at, the soul, the higher self, however you want to frame it, that's actually overseeing me, and I'm here learning the human experience, and I'm giving feedback to something or my greater part of myself. But there's an amnesia between us to a degree initially, so I actually have to experience and feel what pain feels like and feels what love feels like, and through these explorations, you actually take on board, and it becomes not a belief but a knowing, and there's an innate experience that you can't learn it unless you experience it, right?
Totally, 100%.
So I'm always curious then, and I'd love to have your aspect on this, because sometimes we're not getting the lesson because there's a part of us that keeps repeating certain patterns and getting in the way. And it might be manifesting as disease, or it could be multiple things. What are your thoughts on then when we lean into this kind of work? Because you mentioned sound, and infused with intention is critical, and an awareness to where you want to work with. That sometimes, will we get the healing if we're not going to get the lesson?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Are we going to heal if we're not understanding the lesson? I think that healing, I'm just looking at the clients that I see. When I'm able to clear, if you think of a ball with, you know how they make a ball out of all of those rubber bands and they're all intertwined and it's one giant ball at the end and you could pick it apart. It's like made out of rubber bands. Healing, I think we're looking at it like it's a solid ball, but I think that every little rubber band represents a very different thing. So there might be intergenerational trauma that you've carried, and you don't need to learn a lesson for that. You just need to learn how to clear that. There might be a past life experience that you do need to learn a lesson from, and then your guides are like, put that boss that triggers you, and you need to learn to speak your voice, and you can't because you're scared because of the fear. I think that there are so many fractals of healing that ultimately, I don't think that everything is about learning a lesson from it. Sometimes, I think you get to a point of sickness though, where you don't have to consciously know things. I think comes a point where your intention is so strong to get out of it that you do. Yeah. Otherwise, it would be a really rigged game. I think that more humans would leave, otherwise the game would be fucking hard. And it already is really hard.
It is already hard. That's without a doubt. And I had a gentleman on, Patrice, who's a intuitive medium, medical medium, he calls himself. And
cool.
Yeah, very fascinating guy. Somebody you'd probably enjoyed.
I will listen to that after this.
Yeah, but he was saying that it was either him or I think he was quoting the Buddhist monks or something, but they believe 80% of trauma that we carry is from past lives now. And if we were to actually heal that, then it would transform ourselves in this lifetime.
I do think that, because the healing is not only a clearing, but it's also an activation. So I think when you visit a past life experience, when I see people's past lives, you only need to, it's emotions and energy and trauma is a charge. We're electromagnetic beings. It's an electrical charge that sits in our energy field. If it hasn't been felt, even for a moment, it will sit there until we have the space to actually fully feel it. People in sessions get so scared to look into stuff because they're scared to feel the charge of that emotion. When they feel it for your team doesn't make you feel it for long, a few moments, and I say breathe in and lean into that thing. Then once you felt it, you're allowed to clear it. And once it's cleared, there is a little nugget that is your power, and you can bring that back and plug that into the matrix of your body. And I do feel like it's a game. Like, what's those games when you go around and catch the coins and you're like, da, 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 da. And there's little lessons, and then there's like a dragon. You have to fight the evil stepmom, whatever. I think that the healing is a two-part, where you clear the charge of the trauma and then you take back the part of you that got rejected or suppressed or denied through those traumas. So it's visiting your past life sounds very far out, and I get that. But I think when it's done consciously and well, your life changes forever. Like clients you can fully heal from things and you can fully evolve. And it's not as hard as people think it is. I think it's just unlearned. They don't have the textbook, right? So they don't know what the framework is. So that's why education is so important. That's why I like my multidimensional energy course. I love teaching people because it's really simple stuff once you view it from a different lens.
Yeah. And acknowledge who you really are, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah. And that's hard for some people because you have to let go a lot of conditioning, and that's very scary.
Yeah, of course. Totally. I wanted to loop back a little bit because you mentioned Egyptian alchemy and Isis. Is that the topic that you know a lot about, or passionate about, or is it just in that? I only ask because I've been pondering on what do they know, or what did they know that we didn't know, or we are now learning and catching up with. Because I've been currently reading a book on Mary Magdalene. It's called the Mary Magdalene Manuscripts.
That's so beautiful.
And it's a channel text, and she was saying she was trained under Isis and Egyptian alchemy. So, wow. Because she's been turning up a lot with me. So I'm just slowly trying to piece it all together and learn as well.
I think that if you're looking at archetypal energy structures like that, you need to zoom out even further and look at galactic consciousness and understand human origins and the seeding of the planet, and understanding that the technology, you can say like, what were the Egyptians doing? They used sound, but I think you also have to recognize that it wasn't in a time where just pure humans existed. There are, the Syrian consciousness, it works very strongly with Isis and these deities, and different galactic civilizations played a very big part in that, and they have very advanced technology that was imparted with us. So utilizing sound on a way bigger scale than humans do right now, but we're remembering in ourselves our galactic origins. And I think that we are the key. As we said, we heal and we take that fractal of us back. We have our past life, but we also have our galactic experiences as well. And I think that when we all, like, humanity is like a symphony, right? And we're all playing a note. Once we're all fine-tuned through the awakening process to our coherent state, I think then the collective frequency will raise, and these technologies will be more available, and we will be able to understand and remember and reclaim how to use sound in a way more advanced way than we're using right now.
Yeah. That's a whole conversation as well. I don't know much about, I'll be honest. Like I'm aware of, there's different conversations about like what's happening at the planet right now, and that we're even being supported into our awakening. Otherwise, who knows the trajectory we'd go on as humans. We can never seem to get along peacefully when you look at the pan out at the collective anyway. Not in my neighbors, like in the communities and things. It's
totally
very different. So.
But that's a much bigger, different conversation. Like that's a whole, you could go into the multiverse, you could go into timelines. Like there's so much to explore, and it's good to just keep it where you're at, of just like, how can I heal my things to have a more fulfilling human experience? Because that's why you're here.
Totally. And I think we can get lost in the information and not do the healing.
The work.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Like if you're in pain, if you're fighting with your family, like your external reality is the mirror for everything internal. So you can keep, there's nothing that isn't spiritual. The most mundane human stuff is like a reflection of all of that. So you don't need to explore any of that because it's all given to you right here in your domain.
So how are you working with sound these days to support people?
I've been just wanting to focus more. I love working with people's body, but I think with the technology and VibroSound and with my YouTube channel Encoded Frequencies, I want to reach a bigger audience. I want to be able to channel into the music that I make specific frequencies. I choose specific frequencies, instruments, and then channel energy. So like one piece of music can go to like all around the world. Hundreds of thousands of people can tune in and use those encoded energies within that to have their own breakthroughs. Because I think I kind of came here to be like, you don't need to you don't need to see a healer. Like, I think that we can heal ourselves, and we don't have to divert our power to while it's very fun and very useful to start your awakening with someone and for them to guide you, I think there's also the point where you can just be like, okay, I want to clear my base chakra from my father's fear around finances. I'm going to go and do a guided process energy clearing, and I'm going to release that trauma today. You know, it can be that simple. So that's where I'm focused. And I think that's where my excitement is, to be like, ooh, what does the collective need to hear today? Like, I love that. I think that's really fun.
Yeah. Well, obviously, and YouTube's such a powerful medium. Like, I'm noticing even on the podcast as well, especially more recently, some the reach that can get out there is quite staggering.
Profound.
So there's clearly, so there's
and how
clearly
people find you. People find my videos, and I started with like 180 people. I had no one on there, and it just boomed. Like, there's like 3,000 in a few months. So people just find you. And I think that when you're like doing what you're meant to be doing, that's when I think like spirits like pops you into random feeds. I think there's like an underlying mechanism behind driving content that people could resonate to out there. So you don't have to rely on just the algorithms. There's something more.
Yeah, totally. And you mentioned the Vibro Lounge as well. Can you explain how that works and what
the bed?
People?
The VibroAcoustic Therapy? Yeah. VibroAcoustic Therapy is both felt low frequency sound waves and heard audible sound waves. So it's like a bed, you lay on it, and embedded is technology called a tactile transducer. It's kind of like just a bass shaker, and it's emitting thousands of sound waves, pure sound frequencies that are moving into the body directly. So low frequency sound has a relaxing effect. The stability of the sound as it comes through the bed is shifting your nervous system into parasympathetic state. And basically, I just engineer the music to pan up and down the body, pause at the liver, pause at the sternum. And it's kind of like a sonic massage where your fingers can't reach. So if you imagine just being cocooned in deep sound wave vibrations, your whole body recognizes something very inherent, that we are vibration. So people cry, people pass out, like go to sleep. People have very profound, like one lady came in and was an atheist. This is one of the practitioners told me, one of her clients didn't believe in God, did 2 of the tracks and like met her daughter who had passed and met like an angel in her higher self, and came out and just like was crying, being like, oh shit, there's more. Like, so you can have very like basic physical healing experiences. And as I said, sound is a transportation tool. You can download a lot of information just by listening to consciously composed music.
Yeah. And when you have a regular practice, because I've been on the bed, like I've laid up there.
Oh, yeah. You've had the bed.
Will. Yeah, I've been
he
on
brought it to the retreat.
Yeah. And do you recognize that image?
I saw that image. Is that your frequency?
That is my frequency. Yeah.
Is it? I wonder what do you remember what your note was?
I can tell you now. One sec. It's G3 plus 33.
Oh, nice.
And 199.713 hertz.
I love that. I don't know why I like knowing it. Whenever people finish with Will, I'm always like, what's your frequency? He's like, babe, relax. Like, it doesn't matter. But Will does a very different thing. Like, Will uses the lounge in a very different way than I use it. He uses binaural frequencies, and I use full spectrum sound.
So maybe explain the difference between those two for listeners.
Totally. I see like Will does the more masculine, where he finds the frequency of your nervous system through his technology. So mine was like 52 hertz, right? And then through the bed, 52 hertz is playing directly into your body. So you can start in training and feeling what rest and digest is to you. You're vibrating at your body's own homeostasis. So there's only a few frequencies going into the bed, but they're very stable. Whereas mine is like gongs and chimes and didgeridoo and rain. It's like 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. There are so thousands and thousands of frequencies, and it's more of a journey than while it does entrain your nervous system, it's doing a lot more. Because if you think your bones are vibrating in a certain frequency, your cells, your organs, the water, they're all vibrating at different frequencies. And if you're sending those frequencies into the body and hitting the resonant frequency, it's increasing the energy patterns within the body. So you're feeding energy to all of the organs, water, cells, bones with full spectrum sound. And that's what I think is healing.
Because I was going to ask you, do you feel when doing this work, and like anything, I feel a consistency over time is when you really start to see the results, you know?
Yeah.
And do you think there's an adaptation that's going on with the nervous system and cells, or do you think it's more of a resetting and clearing and just getting you back into your natural homeostasis?
I think it's
Does that
both.
make sense?
Yeah,
Both.
that's a good question. I think you are adapting and resetting. Can it be both? I think it's both, because you're not the same person that you were yesterday. You're shifting in and out of different levels of awareness. So your body is going to change as well. So I don't think that you can go back to a nervous system because you're not the old guy anymore. You've learnt more. You've embodied more. So I think that it's a physical and an energy, because the energy field is informing the body, but your energy is grown. So your physical body is changing.
It has to.
Yeah,
because
it has to.
Even with the level of energy that can come through sometimes now to say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there has to have been an adaptation. It would have just fried me.
Yeah, you're not staying the same.
No.
That's evolution, baby.
Exactly. I want to touch on the last topic before we wrap this up as well. And I'm just curious to hear your perspective, because you talk about your team. You've mentioned guides.
Yeah.
And how do you see that arena, really? Like, we all have guides?
Yes.
Are they all supporting us?
Yes. When I start, okay, so let's bring it back. When I first started energy, I couldn't see. So I wasn't clairvoyant. I wasn't clairaudient. I hadn't developed my psychic senses, which every single human on the planet has. It's just a underactive muscle that has not been used or even highlighted as having worth. So I want to start by saying every single person can see, hear, interpret extrasensory information. They just are too busy doing human stuff, and that's cool. But when I first started, I couldn't see or feel anything. So when I first started channeling energy, I didn't know if everyone had guides. I didn't know if there was beings to talk to. I just felt, oh, I should move my hands here. And that was the preliminary stage. And as I started to see more clients and do my job more often, then I started to refine, and I started to be like, what are there guides? So then I started to feel a presence, and maybe people are at this stage where they meditate and they're like, oh, I feel like a mass. I feel, and you kind of like decipher, ooh. And then the next level, I was like, well, I want to see you guys. Like, I want to do it. So then I just really worked on clearing the blocks, the fear of seeing scary things. Oh my God, there's a whole realm of scary things out there. So you have to like man up and be like, let's go. I want to see it all. You can't see just the good. You have to do it all, and it exists. So just go there if you want to. And then I started to really refine. So when I call in someone, if I was doing an energy healing for you, I would pull your energy into a space, into a healing room, and I would close my eyes and I would lay your energy body down, and then I would call in your team. So if you imagine you laying down, to the left, to the right, I would see your family members if they had passed over. The mother's line would be on the left, the father's line would be on the right. So your grandparents or their grandparents might come through. And then I would see guides, and they look, spirit will project itself to you in the most palatable version that you enjoy. Some people say that angels look like sacred geometrical fractals. I've seen that. I sometimes see Archangel Michael, and he's got a blue sword and he's got a cape. Great. It doesn't matter. Like, however if you set the parameters for how you wish to interpret energy, the energy will form around your intention. So if you say, I'm going to see an angel and it's going to look like this, and you see it, great. It's playing with you. It's playing with what you want. And then you can turn it up. So the first time I met Jesus Christ consciousness, I was in the hospital and working on a girl's throat, and I was toning and playing music into her throat to she had a tumor, and bright as day behind her, I saw dark skin, blue eyes, like tan skin, hair. And he was like, I heard his voice, and he was like, I am Jesus. And I was like, oh, snap. I didn't think you were real. Because at that point I was like, church is, I don't know. And then he just started pouring liquid into her thing. And then I saw her body go in real time. So
wow.
everyone has guides. everyone has thousands of beings watching. Earth is an amazing school that all of the high consciousness are very intrigued by. Yeah, you're literally so supported you don't even realize. Or everyone is.
When you saw Jesus, were your eyes closed or open? Like, are you seeing it like in?
They were open, and it was an
vision?
impression in the air, so I can see energy patterns move in human eyes. But if I close my eyes, it's much more real because they're in the energetic realm. So it's just a dimensional shift away, if that makes sense. So then I could see much more clearly with my eyes closed because I'm using my inner vision.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really intriguing because I'm at a point because
like Mary Magdalene, you would be able to tune into her energy and then you'll be able to have full conversations and see her. And
yeah, which I will continue to develop. I think since having children and things, like my life is so chaotic, I'm on and I'm off, it's
which is good. You can't be on all the time. It's not healthy.
Not, it's beautiful. I love it. Like, you get to that point. So I think in time I'll be developing, but my skills get developed in time, in the events, there's a constant, like, okay, the experience is happening right now. Oh, what happens if I tweak this, do that, or explore that side of things as well? And I got to be mindful because sometimes the upgrades will come mid-retreat because of the energy that's coming through, and I give my consent, and then the next thing I know, I'm like, oh, a little bit wobbly, and
that's a good point. You're doing something very different to me. So your psychic gift, your clairvoyance is not that necessary to refine right now because you're leading groups in the human with your eyes open and teaching people to explore their trauma and release. So it's just like in your toolbox, you don't pick that wrench up that often. So you don't need to use that wrench as often. You actually need to not focus on that because you need to do the stuff that the people need you for.
Exactly. Yeah. It's fantastic. And do you think guides interchange? They come in and out, and there's different.
Yeah, I fired guides. Like there's I can get pretty sassy with the team because I came to a point in my awakening where I was so depressed that I actually just wanted to leave the earth. And I kind of just said to them, if you're going to use me like this, I need to be able to call the shots more. So I think people get a little like, wow, angels, guides, like, no. You're a spirit, you incarnated, you're in here doing the groundwork. This shit's hard. If you need more help, you just ask for more help because they're going to give it to you. Be receptive. It can be very grounded in your approach to like spirits. It's not fanatical and like, ooh, help me, please. Are you there? It's like, no, if you're not seeing the results, ask for someone else. You can have your team to be upgraded to the higher frequency. You can explore working with different energies.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's fun. It's really fun. It's honestly the most fun I've ever had. Like I said, the earth got so hard. I think that if I didn't open up to this level of help, it would be too hard to keep going, to be honest.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Before we wrap up the podcast, are there any questions you wish I'd asked and I haven't?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, like 1,000. There's so many things we could have spoken about, I think this is a great, I think like people are either going to be like, this girl's crazy, or I'm so intrigued, I want to learn more. So I think if people are interested to learn more, they can.
It'll definitely be the latter, I can assure you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I love
on this podcast, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, last question for you then, before we wrap it up. With everything we've covered today, what would you like to leave the listeners to ponder on?
Oh, that you can communicate with so many parts of you that you didn't know existed. And in doing so, your life will become so enriched by exploring cavities and crevices of your consciousness. And if you start and you feel the call, meditate and ask to be shown things. And if you want to like be guided on that journey, utilize sound, utilize meditation, and set your intention, because there's so much fun to be had playing with the other side. So if you're a little bit bored in your life, or you are stuck in healing, you can heal and you can open your senses, because like it's happening.
Beautiful. Do you work remotely, Katie?
Yeah, I only work remotely. So if people do want to learn, I have my multidimensional energy course. It's 8 weeks. I teach everything that I teach: remote viewing, bilocating, reading, psychic surgery, channeling high frequency energy. My next intake is in a week, but I'm full for that, but my next intake will be later this year. And I do sessions all around the world. Most of my clients are in America. So you can have a multidimensional clearing. You can read your soul blueprint. You can communicate to your guides. I can channel the information that you need, if you want.
Happy days. Absolutely.
Guy, we should have a session together. It'll be my pleasure.
We should, mate. We should.
Yeah.
You're talking my language.
It would be really fun. It would be on my honor.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. And where can we send them? Say the website out loud. I'll make sure the links are in the show notes.
Probably go to YouTube, because then you can listen to the frequencies first. Encoded Frequencies with Katie. You can listen to them, or my website is encodedfrequencies.au.
Beautiful. I'm a subscriber.
Yeah.
I'm one of your 3,000. Good on you. You're doing an amazing job, mate.
I'm so excited about it. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, I have no doubt. I'll put you on the map for a few more people today anyway, that's for sure.
I'm ready.
Podcast, so
thanks, Guy. I appreciate it.
You speak so well, Katie. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, my lovely. Thank you.